Have you ever heard a river talk? The voices in the stream, hear the laughter and the joy and the terror and the scream. There's something there, I know there is, if we listen to the earth once more.
My name is Deb Abrahamson. My tribal name is Skumkumilchin. I'm a member of the Spokane Tribe as well as the Coeur d'Alene and Dene. My parents are Anita and Smokey Abrahamson. My grandparents are Cecilia and Magnus Abrahamson and Basil Pion and Louise. On my mother's side, I am of the Bethlejini and Nakaidene clans from the Navajo Nation. And I would like to say that I'm honored today to be here and just to go ahead and speak about something that's very sacred to our people, and that's the water that we see today. We're at the confluence of Blue Creek and the Spokane River here. Before Grand Coulee was built, this was a very small, fast-moving river. It wasn't a huge mass of water like this. You could ford it fairly easily at spots, so it was not like it is today. And there were encampments and houses that people built all along this river. Further down, they had orchards that were set up down toward Two Rivers. There used to be orchards and small townships that got covered. So it's very different what you see today than what it was. I mean, it was a lot more of the timber. In the past, this area used to be just rich with fish and rich with all kinds of river mollusks and river eel. And our people used these items to survive. And we were known as river people. And when the dam came forward, Grand Coulee Dam, we lost that lifeways. We lost the use of the river as it was meant to be for our people. And that's very unfortunate because, you know, right now we see this wondrous body of water, this huge body of water, but it's really backed up because a dam was built. Prior to that, we had a river that was just filled with salmon and all other kinds of fish for use by our people. And we don't have that any longer. We had a land where we had berries to be gathered, particularly in this area. Our family used to gather chokecherries, and we can't do the chokecherries any longer because we've also had other resources taken from our lands that created contamination. And unfortunately today where we sit is one of the most contaminated arenas, because we sit in an arena that is on the one bluff was a mine site called Sherwood Mine, and then down this Blue Creek drainage is the contamination from another mine called Midnight Uranium Mine. And so the concerns are that at one time when we had a river that flowed of its own accord and it flowed freely, and the people lived along this river in a far freer way than we live today, and we lived off of the land. We took what we needed. We didn't take more than we needed, and it kept our people alive for generations and centuries. And now there's concerns in terms of what the river has to offer may not always be good. And so that's one of the reasons we're here today, is to take a look at this arena and the contamination that we're actually standing on, and be able to understand why we need to protect the rivers as we do, and why we need to protect the lands as they should be protected, and that's for future generations. There's another tributary, it's called Shimmikin Creek, and our family had a home built there, and found out that there was also drainage from a mill site into Shimmikin Creek, and so have not lived in that home as a result of the level of contamination that drains along Shimmikin Creek. SHAWL was formed to address the uranium impacts and the contamination, the environmental toxins that have invaded our lands and our waterways. And SHAWL stands for Sovereignty, Health, Air, Water, and Land. And it's comprised of a group of people, tribal members mainly, who want to make a difference and bring to the surface some of the concerns that our people face, and look at how preventative activities can happen to ensure that we do have a future generation for our people. Because one of the concerns that has occurred is that the level of health issues that have impacted the community. And so SHAWL has conducted educational as well as advocacy, and also been able to work with other organizations to bring to the surface some of the concerns that we're facing as a communities that live here, but also as generations of tribal members who will inevitably, be born here and then die here. So sometimes when these decisions happen that direly impact our people, they're decisions made solely by non-natives who live off reservation and who will never live here and have no reason to even care about what is occurring to the people in this community. So that's basically why SHAWL exists, is to look at the impacts and to address the concerns, whether it be the environmental toxins that exist in these waterways, in the lands, as well as our subsistence foods, the moose, elk, deer, and our fish, and then our medicinal and our berries that we gather through the year, to be able to use those free of, with our minds free, that they're not contaminated. Right now we can't do that. We can't know that deer or elk have not been impacted by the toxins of the mine sites, because there are some open pits that they can get into. And then the waterways, we don't know the exact nature of the contamination. We only know that there's been generations of contamination coming down these streams. And so it's very much a concern in terms of looking at how to find support and help the people understand the importance of taking care of themselves and their children in light of these environmental toxins. The community is gathering for another spiritual healing, to be able to look at not only health-wise, but spiritually, the impact of the level of loss of our people through decades of genocidal movement that we've had to we were subjected to. And yet the tribe has survived the boarding schools and, you know, the poor health care that has been provided by the government, and the taking of the resource drainage. We continue to survive and work at developing different means of being able to help the people understand that there are alternative ways, that as long as we can look at helping ourselves move forward, then we can make a better world for ourselves. We know what we need, we know what our families need, and if we sit and wait for others to do for us, then we're going to be waiting a long time, and we can't afford that. We have to be looking at what helped our people survive, and those kinds of things that helped our people survive, and SHAWL has been a part of it, is like cultural revitalization of the foods by taking young mothers and their children out and going digging and helping them learn and understand. We've done that type of work. We've conducted educational seminars and brought people forward to be able to help people prepare for the EPA hearings that are necessary to have public input and help people understand the importance of their voices at the table. We also work at helping our council understand by trying to bring in people who will speak to the issues from other areas and help them learn about the environmental toxins and help them by providing them with information about upcoming decisions that are happening, for instance, with a compensation process for former uranium workers. We ask our government to go forward when they do visit in Washington, D.C., to be able to go and meet with the officials that are directly involved in the compensation to former uranium workers and help them advocate for our community, because as of yet, and this program has gone on since 1991, we have yet to have one former uranium worker be compensated for the level of sacrifice that they have endured as a result of working in the uranium industry. So we've done quite a number of things in that way, and in working along with other people, other organizations, we've been able to gain and garnish support from the Southwest, particularly the Navajo tribe, and from some of the eastern tribes who've dealt with Washington, D.C., to help us meet with some of those, some of our representatives like Senator Cantwell and Senator Murray, and really advocate for the needs of our community, and also maintain the importance of our waters and our land, and to really help us preserve and go back to what we once were, which were a strong people that relied heavily on the gifts that the Creator provided us initially. And that's what we look at, is we know water is sacred. We know this land is sacred. And for generations and centuries, our people kept it that way. And with the influence of capitalism and commerce and now pure greed, we're losing that, not only as a people on the front lines, but we're losing that as a society, because it always seems as if the corporations, their say comes before us as people, and we need to reverse that. And I believe there are movements, and through the efforts that are going on right now, that is happening. And we can only move forward, and people can really begin to think about, what can I do to change this? I'm just one person. Well, there's a lot one person can do to change this. Because this water and this land and all of these gifts that have been provided, all of our peoples have survived in our own ways, whether it's we eat this kind of meat, that kind of meat, or we eat no meat. We have survived through these gifts that have been provided us. Our ancestors knew how to survive. If each one of us goes back and looks at what did our ancestors do, and many of the mainstream society, their ancestors were farmers who took care of the land, who took care of the water, just as our tribal people did, took care of the land, took care of the water. And that's all we ask, is for people today to think about how it is that I can help. What can I do to make it simpler and easier? And a lot of it is just living simpler, doing the things that we need to do, and not go for all of the razzmatazz that the corporations and the greediness puts before us, because it isn't working, and we know that. And as long as we continue to fight for the life of this water, as long as we continue to fight for the life of the land and the birds and the air, then we're fighting for our own life, we're fighting for that of our family and our community, but most importantly for future generations who deserve it more than any of us right now. And there were sacrifices our people did. Many of our ancestors sacrificed for us so we can be here standing, breathing, and living. And we owe that to the future generations. So that's part of what SHAWL has been about, is to make sure that we move these things forward, and we keep being mindful that it's not so much about us today, it's about what comes in the future. And that's what we've been taught, that water's life, it's sacred, and we can't give up the fight. Sometimes with all of the pollution that has occurred, you know, you feel the pain of the water. But, you know, it's like the river's saying, I'm okay, I'll make it. I'm okay, I'll make it. Because the Creator has something ahead for us. And the Creator made this sacred. And I really believe that it will continue, and the river is saying, I'm okay right now, I'm okay. They used to talk about being so anxious when the salmon were going to come, and everybody getting ready and preparing for hard work and preparing for long days of just working and being together to do the gathering, and being together to harvest the salmon. They'd always tell a story, like one grandmother told a story about how when she was 12, down at Little Falls, and she would be sent in to Little Falls before the dam was built down there, and there would be pools of water where she would have to go in, and she was in essence the bait for the river eel. So the eels would come up and suction to her legs, and she would have to have like a stick and a container and get those eels off of her legs. But it was scary, yet she said exciting at the same time, and she knew she was helping a lot of people because there was going to be good food for a long time for that winter. And she would always laugh at being, you know, the bait. She'd call herself the bait. But she talked about, you know, just that it was a big gathering and it was a time where people were happy. They weren't sad about, because they had enough. They had more than enough, and there wasn't anything to worry about. And that they could live with each other in harmony and not feel like they had to live in fear. Whereas today it seems that there's more living in fear than in harmony, which is unfortunate. But it was a time, particularly in the Spokane area, right where Riverfront Park sits, and the tribes would gather and they would trade. So there were a lot of things that came from different areas, like from the coast. There were a lot of the shells were imported in, and you didn't see that very often, but somehow they made their way this direction, and they were put on some of the old dresses. You can tell when you see an old outfit that the trading had happened from quite a distance away. And it was a time, you know, for the people. They played, they did the stick games, and they gathered, and they just ate food, and they shared. And it wasn't anything that was any competition or anything like that. It was the people's gathering from different tribes coming together, because that area it had so many fish that there was an abundance for everyone. Nobody went without. So that was the important thing, is that nobody went without. The waters and the waterways have offered so much, because even the willows that are along the beaches, you know, they help make things. And it's a piece of willow that is always put in front of a cradle board for the child, and that's the protector. And so these things are very important. Even if it's a little piece of willow, it still has a very significant and important role to play in everything. And that piece of willow serves as a protector to a small child, a vulnerable child. And if we look at ourselves as a piece of willow for this river, you know, we're but one piece, and we can still make a difference. And we can make a difference for this river. We can make a difference for this Mother Earth, you know, that's been a gift to us. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to use this Mother Earth right now for the gifts provided. And I just only hope for future generations to have that as well. And that's all we can hope. If people have the opportunity to really look into their daily lives, remember that as babies, we came out of a sac of fluid. And our bodies, the majority of our bodies are water. And every day we intake water to survive. We use it for our cooking. We use it for growing our plants. We use it for cleaning. We use it for everything that we need and do on a daily basis. And if we remember those things, how vital and important it is, then we should be doing something. We're obligated to this water to pay back in some way and help protect it, help preserve it in its natural state, and to really work at doing something, even if it's making a phone call to your representative, your political representative. Or if it's stop using the detergent that is creating harm, or stop using the chemicals that create harm to the environment rather than do any good. And also to be able to, do I need that lawn? Do I need that golf course? You know, those kinds of things make a difference. But we each have to decide what it is that we would like to see happen to make it better for us. And so those kinds of things you can do is just use less, think about what you're using, and get involved in some of the efforts that are already moving forward. There are people who are doing things to make a difference. Get involved, whatever it might take. If it's visiting your local government, whether it be your tribal council or the city council. You know, we are all obligated to make a difference in helping to keep our water clean, helping to keep our water sacred and maintaining it as a sacred entity.
And we're always racing time to find a peace of mind, but it's all right there, right where it all began. Have you ever heard the factory roar? Smelt the sewage in the stream? Have you ever choked just from the air, the stuff we've raided clean? We stripped the land, we cut the forest, we hushed the river's roar. But there's something there, I know there is, if we listen to the earth, if we listen to the earth, if we listen